Is there anything on the spreadsheet spreadsheet? Yes, I just said spreadsheet. Anything on there we want to skip?
Ooh, I got rid of one thing already, I think. I'm gonna get rid of the Moto Z Play thing because I'm still kind of like what on that, and the flexible wrist phone and foldable tablet. If you want to know about those, the pictures are gonna tell you about it way better than I ever could. And ooh, instead of talking about Uncarrier 11 being official, let's just talk about the Pizza Massacre.
We can sort of talk about both.
Pizza Massacre. Okay.
We should.
Yeah,
yeah. Jeff posted a picture last week of the absolute madhouse that was Domino's. We should try to find that picture.
Did he?
Yeah,
Did he post it in Slack or
Slack,
actually?
Yeah, in Slack.
It's lost. It's a lost cause.
Do we not have the full search thing?
We do not.
Damn it!
It's gone forever.
Arden was to get
that cheap bastard.
I don't remember how it was, but he's trying to get people to sign up or whatever so that he can get so that he can get a few months worth of free credit.
It's not like we don't use Slack all day for everything.
So you know what? So there's all three of you watching, but you know what Artem's favorite birthday present probably was? His birthday is on the same birthday as Linode, the company who sponsors us.
Yeah.
And
double RAM.
Every year, it's either double RAM or they just increase the RAM on the servers. This year, he was a little disappointed they didn't increase the free storage capacity for your given tier, which, shame on you, Linode. Thank you for sponsoring us. But they gave everybody more RAM, which, AP runs on Linode, and so our servers get more RAM every year. Maybe next year they'll get more storage, or maybe they'll be upgraded. They're already on SSDs. They gave everybody SSDs last year. So, yeah.
That's still pretty cool.
It is. I know it's a pretty cool company.
I wish my birthday.
You should sign up for a Linode server if you're looking for a server or any kind of cloud computing, capability.
But only sign up for ones that have the same birthday as you because that makes it more fun.
Yeah, you can actually. Today is Linode's birthday, so it's actually going to be a very special Android Police podcast.
I actually have the same birthday as Android Police itself.
What?
But I don't get any fun stuff on it.
Oh, well, you get work.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I have the same birthday as John Koncak, who used to play for the Atlanta Hawks. So take that, sucker.
I have the same birthday as my great aunt. I don't really feel like that stacks up to anybody here.
I don't know. There's a couple celebrities that I share with, but kind of everyone does, and mine aren't even that cool. So screw it. My birthday is boring.
Okay. I guess we are about ready to start here. I am going to do the social because I was definitely going to do that.
Did you sticky the post?
I did. I did that minutes ago.
Minutes ago. Minutes
indeed. Okay, that looks good. Share now. God, I love this buffer tool. It's so much nicer than having to go through every network and do it. Okay, we are good to go, and I am recording. Okay, I'm going to do the pre-roll here. This week's Android Police podcast is brought to you by Linode. Check them out at linode.com/Android Police for a free $20 Linode service credit.
Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. It is Thursday, June 16th, 2016. I'm your host, Matthew Smith.
I'm David Reddick.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
And I'm Cody Toombs.
And so take it easy on Matt this week, everybody. He's very tired.
Yes, that's true. Today's date is the same forward and backwards, in case anybody was wondering.
What?
I actually was wondering that just now. I was thinking, I wonder if today's date is the same forward and backward, and you answered that for me. So
it is.
Yeah, so in my head.
You're welcome.
But you know what? Is it the same backward in European?
No.
Well, automatically no.
Womp womp.
Well, that's not the right way to do it.
It's the wrong way. Europe, you do it wrong.
I know we're going to get like 5 or 6 emails from Europeans who explain why it's totally the right way. And I understand the argument. But
I understand the argument as well, but, Okay,
Well,
so we're off on a right
I can make a pretty solid argument for why it's the wrong way. Because it's not the way I do it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good argument.
So, that's the argument. All right, let's get things started off. We had a new developer preview come out for Android N, which apparently is called Namey McNameface, but probably not really. So Developer Preview 4 has come out. Anybody have any comments that they'd like to make on that? I thought we're doing topics today. Just open it up for comments.
Yeah, just comments on Preview 4. I don't know. I put it on Nexus 6. Seems fast for now. I mean, I'm saying that 2 days in, which is like I'm basically just jinxing myself now. It's going to run terribly tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not really much different than the last one. I think the big deal is not so much for users who are testing it because they want to play with new Android. It's developers will finally get final APIs.
Right.
Yeah, building on that, being able to put the apps into the Play Store.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah.
That's a first. I mean, a real first. They've never done that before, and it's kind of cool.
So last year and every year before that, did you have to wait for it to actually be released to put apps in the Play Store with the new API? Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Had to be I think it was day of release. I'm trying to remember if they might have put out the SDK like a day or two early, but I don't think so. I'm almost certain it was the day of. Then you could get the latest SDK build, push immediately, but still, like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this is probably overall a good thing, just because I would guess that probably some developers at least complained with the M and L previews that people who were on previews used their apps and then gave them a 1-star review. And it's like I can't do anything about it. It's I can't make it compatible. So maybe this will actually motivate developers to release N compatibility sooner. Or it might not do that at all, and they're just going to do what they're going to do, especially
I mean, one way or another, whenever N does come out, like 1% of Android devices are going to be running it. So it's still not probably going to be a big priority.
That 1% leaves like 50% of 1-star reviews on the Play Store.
Yeah,
like they are all over those reviews. So yeah, there haven't been too many big changes in the preview. It's pretty much seems like it's at feature freeze. They added a cursor pointer API, and that was kind of it for feature changes. Things that were added.
Is the I forgot to look. Is night mode still gone? That's like for sure not happening.
It's still broken, so it still appears in the quick settings tiles. But like when we talk to, I always forget this guy's name. Dave something. Anyway, he said, "Wait, that's still there?" And it's like, no, it's supposed to be gone. So they probably will get rid of it in
it's
later
funny
previews.
It's funny that it's like it's the sort of thing they can just lose track of when like a certain subset of users go absolutely crazy when it's like when they're teased with a night mode and then it's taken away.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's kind of. I would guess it's probably kind of like it's a building and the building's on fire, and somebody's like, "Hey, you forgot to turn off the stove," and it's like, "Yeah, we'll get there." It's not a priority. It's kind of already it's far gone past that. So yeah, night mode's not coming back, not for Android N, and the fact that the feature is still super janky when you try to enable it. There's not been any work done on that.
So why do they keep putting that in there and then taking it back out? Like,
just to mess with people, I think.
What's the logic there?
The current implementation for the screen tinting is through the accessibility options in Android, which don't get down to the layer of basically GPU display control that you'd want for something like that, and so they can hinder device performance. And if you toggle them on and off, you can see they're just super unreliable in terms of does it actually work. And the same was true of the dark theme. They had some issues with, Well, they had some issues with consistency, I guess, was more their concern there. But again, they weren't doing it in a way where they felt the performance was going to be good. So that seemed to be the primary concern.
I mean, when they do get around to doing that, I would really prefer that it was some sort of like API that developers could access, so that your apps would be able to adopt some sort of night mode thing too. Because right now, like if you play with that in a dev preview, it's like that's nice, but it's really just the settings screen. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, how often are you poking around in the settings for long periods of time that you're worried about your night vision?
Yeah, and I guess end up feeling like this was mostly an experiment to say, well, what would it look like if we tried to do it in a way that was relatively easy to implement, and it turned out, well, it's not very good. So yeah, a much more ambitious approach like that with an API for theming apps for a night mode would probably be much more preferable. Granted, you'd be asking developers to have just one more thing we need you to do or want you to do. So maybe that's what they'll do one day.
I'm not totally certain. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I think there is something in the SDK where you can define like a style or something like that, and when it switches to night mode, it will choose that style if it's available. Otherwise, I think it would try to do it automatically. This all came about, like, I think when Marshmallow was in previews. I might be wrong. I could be way off.
I feel like I kind of remember that too, but I don't remember exactly what about it. But yeah, Developer Preview 4, pretty much not that important if you're an end user. Although, I mean, does anybody else anecdotally feel like it's faster? I feel like it's fast. I was running Preview 3 on the Nexus 6, and by the time Preview 3 had been in there for a month, it was like, ugh.
I have not used it enough to say. I mean, every fresh install feels, pretty fast, but.
I mean, I'm on day 2 now, and it still feels pretty fast. So I'm almost a little bit hopeful, aside from the camera, but it's a Nexus 6, and the camera is like
slow. That's just how it is.
So otherwise, it feels fast.
All right. Well, that the Android N API is getting finalized. Wasn't the only API news. Also, the Nearby API, which you may recall is the API that allows Android devices to interact with other Android devices that happen to be in proximity or nearby, you might say, has learned some new tricks this week as well.
Yeah, I wasn't too familiar with what was actually new about this. Is this just Google kind of like putting a bow around all these things and being like, oh, they're all here now, and so you can do stuff with them?
Well, some of this is very new. Some of it's new enough that it's not happened yet. But so they're adding in the ability. Exactly, so new. They're adding in the ability to detect Chromecast and Android Wear devices that haven't been set up yet. The problem is, as far as I'm aware, Chromecast and Android Wear devices don't yet send out the signals necessary to trigger this.
So,
at least,
I think this actually might have happened to me yesterday, because I was pairing a Huawei watch with the OnePlus 3, and right when I was in the process of setting it up, and right before I did that, there was a notification that popped up that asked me if I wanted to set up an Android Wear device, and I was like, huh, that's weird. I'll look into that later. But now that I think about it, I bet that was this.
That was exactly that. Okay, so I guess Wear is doing that.
Oh, okay. Do we have any comments on there?
Does it require the ultrasonic thing? Does it need a speaker in the watch?
As far as I'm aware, the implementation of Nearby that they're using for Chromecast and Wear, I think is, well, okay, for Wear it's Bluetooth, hands down. They're not doing ultrasonic because most of the Wear devices don't have speakers. I don't know about Chromecast. I don't know if they're using ultrasonics, but supposedly this version Nearby just requires location services and Bluetooth. So and location services gives you Wi-Fi.
Okay, and probably BTLE, so it's just basically, probably, sending out a little pulse every.
I think it drops a unique code into the Bluetooth ID or something that devices can identify.
And so it looked like that notification for the Google Cast device that Google published.
Yeah, I wish I'd gotten a screenshot of it, but at the time I was just.
Damn it, Ryan! You're wasting perfectly good Android police material here. That's actually pretty cool because, a lot of times because we're weird because we have to reset Android Wear all the time, and what I usually do is my watch is on my wrist when I'm resetting it because that's the only time I'm going to remember to repair it. So it would be nice if by the time it was back in factory reset mode and had gotten back to the main screen, I pulled out my phone and was like, oh hey, there's an Android Wear device. You want to just do that? And granted, it saves you like 2 clicks or taps, but whatever. It's the future.
I mean, I would really just prefer that I didn't have to completely factory reset a watch to pair it with a different phone.
Yeah, that's I'm guessing that's some kind of architectural decision in how Android Wear works. It doesn't take that long to reset a Wear device, though. That much is true.
Yeah.
It's not too big of a deal. So, So the physical web, I remember seeing that at Google I/O. Actually, my phone was going crazy with physical web notifications. So I think that's already a thing.
That's been going on for months.
Yeah, and that's the physical web is just a way of saying, hey, we're going to serve you some ads. It's going to be fun. And it was for Shoreline for B&H because they're Shoreline's main sponsor, I guess, for this purpose. And yeah, it was a B&H ad in my notification bar. It was actually quite annoying, so I kind of am of the opinion of screw the physical web. So yeah, and then beacons, which Bluetooth beacons, again, are about serving you advertisements or content disguised as an...
No, David, it's about providing you with special offers that will be relevant to your interests based on location. It's an innovative technology.
They're very special offers.
Yeah,
I want to know how it knows what I want to buy based on where I am. Like if I'm at the park, how does it know what I want to buy?
Well, when you're at the adult store, it'll have a good idea.
I'm sure it would.
I don't know. I don't think Bluetooth beacons are going to be used for heroin too much, Matt. Park-based transactions tend to be on the illicit side.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the whole beacon thing. It's such a good idea that's going to be completely ruined by ads and everyone who's going to jump on board.
Been. Do you guys remember there was this story we wrote, I don't know if we actually ended up writing it, but I think it was the Galaxy S. Basically, Samsung had an implementation for the Bluetooth listener service on their phones, and when people would go to sporting events, the beacon pings would just crash the phone eventually. They become so overloaded with Bluetooth beacon pings.
I wrote that.
Okay, yeah, that was hilarious.
Filled up the Bluetooth buffer or something, and just the phone didn't know what to do.
Good times.
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, I'll say it right now. I'm just predicting it. We're totally going to have a Bluetooth block plus. It'll be totally ad block, but for the Bluetooth beacons, it's coming.
And will you need root for this?
I sure hope not.
Actually, okay, I actually saw in Developer Preview 4 there was a change to the BLE scanning behavior in Android to limit the amount of times it scans to like once every 30 seconds or something. I forget. I don't have time to pull up the log. But they might have actually changed it to be less annoying. But yeah, that's probably enough time spent on beacons nearby.
Probably. Yeah. We should spend some time on Google Now because they, of course, released a new bar layout for the on-tap functionality with a bunch of quick actions on there. I think David might be a little critical of it. Maybe not necessarily the changes, but just the concept of Now on tap. But anyway, so there's a new bar that has nearby places, quick actions, stuff like that, and so Google Now on tap trying to become more useful, I suppose.
To me, this seems at odds with what Now on tap is. Like Now on tap is, but it's okay. So I get that there's, as Ryan and Liam were saying earlier, we were all talking about this. Ryan and Liam were saying, well, we want Google Now cards and Now on tap because it gives you that passive information. So even if it can't tell you something cool, maybe it gives you something, that you might otherwise want to see. Whereas Now on Tap right now is like, if it's got nothing, it's like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, it's like check back later.
I might have something for you. But on the other end, Now on Tap is supposed to be about, intelligently understanding what you want based on what you're seeing and surfacing that in a very quick, immediate, visible way. Whereas this new functionality is essentially encouraging you to abuse the hell out of the home button and not use Now on Tap in the way it was meant to be used.
Let's just put some stuff in there. Like, do you want some shortcuts to nearby places? Maybe some actions? Let's just toss those in there.
It's a very weird. I mean, I guess it's just an experiment for them because Now on Tap really probably doesn't have the adoption use rate where they really care about confusing people at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and they can roll this out to a small number of people, so it doesn't have to be an official feature.
But it looks like they rolled it out to a substantial number of people.
I don't have it on any of my devices.
I don't have it either, but we got when Artemis and then when we posted, the number of people who had it was surprising.
Huh. Yeah. So I mean, so what's the deal with the actions are they're just like search queries. Like
yes.
It just drops that into the search bar.
Yeah, it's exactly like if you said that thing.
Huh.
Like exactly.
How very unusual. So it's like when you tap the navigate to work button, it just searches for navigate to work.
Yes, and then you have to tap again.
Okay, that's really dumb.
I mean, I'm guessing they've done it with the idea, well, there's probably some kind of limitation in the way this is in the search APK, right? Or is it in Now Launcher?
Yeah. It's the search APK.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's some kind of limitation in the way this stuff gets launched.
I can't see how. I kind of think this might just be some project that started and maybe wasn't meant to go live yet.
Maybe, yeah. Because those tiles are ugly as sin.
Yeah, they really are bad. It's like somebody just was working on this and showed it to somebody. They're like, "Hey, this is pretty cool. Do you think we should roll this out?" I'm like, maybe.
Yeah, like nobody's using it anyway. Who cares?
We don't need to
Let's
probably
see if anyone
take this
notices.
Yeah, we don't need to ask management to do this. Let's just roll it out and see what happens. And it's bad.
Yeah, I'm not in the nearby thing. I'm okay with that because the number of time I'm searching for places and I want it in a more accessible way. I guess I can see that because opening up maps and you have to pull up the nearby thing and then you have to select what you want. But I'd probably still be more likely if I knew I could, which I guess you can. Can you just say to Google voice search, show me nearby bars, and then it'll be like, and then it'll be like a quick launch shortcut to maps. I don't know if it actually does that.
I'm pretty sure it can.
I think so.
Okay, well then, yeah, this is dumb. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it is. Maybe it's somebody's science experiment that got loose. That does happen at Google.
Yeah, it totally does that. Here's some listing for bars within 2 miles.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's interesting looking, I guess.
Interesting looking.
That's about the most nice thing that can be said about it, I think.
All right, well, let's move on to the rumor mill. We've got a pair of Samsung rumors, starting off with apparently Samsung is looking to release foldable phones or foldable screens on their phones. All right, so we had the Motorola Slap Bracelet phone. Foldable?
Yeah.
What does a foldable screen even look like? I mean, what is the...
Well, nobody knows. It's just crazy science fiction mumbo jumbo right now.
But no, you got to see it. You got to see what Lenovo did. They made a foldable phone, and it's But
does it fold or does it just bend?
It folds pretty tightly. I mean, because you can't do a complete it can't be 180 degrees at the edge. Because
okay,
so break the screen.
So according to this leak, and this has been rumored for years, it might be totally nonsense, but according to this leak, Samsung is working on a phone with a 5-inch screen that folds out to become an 8-inch tablet.
Okay, and that's exactly what Lenovo built. So the way they kind of do this is, so when it's folded out, it's a tablet, and then you fold it taco style, it's got a spine backward, and the back of the phone is a screen, and the front of the phone is a screen. But you can turn off the back screen to save power. And then the little hinge, the curved, the half circle on the right edge can be like an edge display, which Samsung is obviously very hip on. So I can understand the concept now. I mean, if you look at the Lenovo foldable tablet phone post we put up, it makes sense when you think about it that way. I admit it's very hard to kind of describe. I mean, just imagine a tablet, an 8-inch tablet, and if you were to try to bend it backwards and fold it in half.
Yes, I am looking at this now. That I guess that looks like an interesting thing.
I mean, I wouldn't want it because I'm like, I am still very wary about the durability of these displays long term, and then the durability of surface material. The surface material to cover has to be plastic. Nobody's inventing foldable glass. It's not happening anytime soon. And the plastic covers scratch, and they kind of sit loose, it feels like, when the things are fully unfolded because they have to stretch when you fold them back up. So I will be very curious to see what Samsung's concepts are like. I would not be surprised if it's a little different from what Lenovo did here, which seems A, a lot easier to scratch, and B, the screen area seems like oddly... It's kind of like having your screen covered with a Ziploc bag. It's very plasticky, and it just looks kind of wrong.
Yeah, and it looks like in the picture that's on the post of it unfolded, or I should say, so it's flat. It's not actually flat. It looks kind of warped. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, it's definitely strange.
Like your tablet is going to get all wrinkled, and you'll have to iron it.
Maybe.
It seems possibly cool. It's going to be that thing that one person will buy and totally show off to their friends because, like, hey, look, I have a foldable phone. And, like, everyone else is going to be, cool, dude. Good for you.
So any particular brand hate aside, can we all agree that Samsung will probably do a better job of it than Lenovo?
Oh, yeah, Lenovo's concept was, like, extremely engineering. Like, this is clearly not ready for any kind of consumer. You know, the guy who's demoing is like, yeah, you know, you take your phone out of your pocket like, what, 100 times a day? And it's like, yeah, these cannot go outside. So, yeah, they're just concepts. It was the only reason I thought they were cool is because you kind of got to see for the first time what a device would look like trying to use a flexible display. And then obviously there's the whole issue of the hinge. Like, if you're going to have a foldable phone, it's going to have a hinge. And that hinge has to also house ribbon cables and stuff so that both sides can communicate with each other. And there are some design compromises that are kind of inherent to these technologies right now. And the hinge on Lenovo's was super ugly. Like, it was gross.
All right. Well, something that's coming a little bit closer to now. The next Galaxy event apparently is going to be August 2nd, and I think it's fairly safe to say we'll see a Note announced there, a new Galaxy Note or something very similar. So yeah. So I'm guessing that we're probably not going to see a Note and an Edge Plus, considering the.
Yeah, so there's the speculation at this point, even though we still haven't seen a picture of the device, but I'm sure we will before it comes out, is that it's going to be a Note 7 Edge. And so it'll be a Note, but with a curved display, and it'll be even bigger than the S7 Edge because they don't want to, you know, I guess they want to make the Note, you know, it's 5.7 inches supposedly. I think that's the rumor versus 5.5 for the Edge right now. So substantially bigger.
What was the Note 5 last year? Was it only 5.5? I think it was 5.7, wasn't it?
I think it was 5.7. Maybe the rumor this year is 5.9. Either way, it's going to be bigger than the current S7 Edge.
Well, I mean, if it has a curved screen, you would want it to be a little bit bigger because you're not going to be able to like use the stylus on like the
the Note 5 was 5.7 inches, so maybe this one will be 5.7. I honestly forget the rumor. But yeah, it's going to be, and then the whole other rumor is the iris scanning thing, which we'll see.
Yes.
You know.
I mean, and so are we pretty confident now they're going to call it Note 7 instead of 6?
Yeah, it seems to. Well, we'll see. I mean, I think that's likely because they're aligning the product portfolio naming scheme and also iPhone. So I think it makes sense, and I think Note 7 Edge sounds like sufficiently Samsung-ish. Yeah.
The shape of the invite also kind of has that 7-ish look to it. So, I mean, it's a small thing, but it's totally in their style to use their invites in kind of a gimmicky way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I was told the invite might be fake, so I mean, the actual event date, I'm like 95% sure that's the day the phone's being unveiled. But the actual invite itself, someone sad enough might have fabricated that invitation, which blows my mind. But yeah. So yeah, we'll see what Samsung does. The I thing is the big rumor. There are some rumors about processors and stuff, and I'm not willing to take much stock in those just yet. But it could be a cool phone. I mean, the stylus has never made the Note any worse as a device. The stylus is just there if you want it. So it could still be just a very good phone, which generally the Notes have been. Apart from the Note 5, we'll just kind of forget that one happened. But yeah.
I can't forget it happened. I have one.
Likewise.
I mean, I use it all the time. I can never forget. All right, so let's talk a little bit about T-Mobile. So the last Uncarrier event, they announced Taco Tuesday or whatever, Freebie Tuesday.
It says T-Mobile Tuesday. You get free stuff,
T-Mobile Tuesday.
but you get less of it now because it turns out they did not plan.
You get approximately a pizza less of free stuff.
Yeah, so the deal before was every Tuesday, every line could get a free medium pizza at Domino's, which, I mean, that's like a really generous offer. It turns out like way too generous for Domino's because they put the kibosh on that after the second week. Now they just did it. Because apparently everybody wanted free pizza.
Apparently there were literal angry mobs outside Domino's stores.
Yeah, like one of the guys on the team, Jeff, sent a picture last week, the first week that it happened, of him going to Domino's trying to pick up one of these free pizzas, and it was like a gigantic mob of people all in the store just standing there angrily waiting for their free food.
Yeah, and you have to think, I mean, there's no way this was gonna work more than once.
Yeah, but when T-Mobile announced this, they said every week, every Tuesday, you get this, and now, and Domino's like, nah, we're out.
Yeah, and Domino's made it clear. Actually, what's funny is John Ledger went on Twitter and published the message to Domino's franchises before anybody else did. He was trying to get out in front of it.
Yeah.
And it's no, actually, you just made everything a lot easier for us by doing that. And yeah, it was clear that Domino's had received a number of complaints from their franchises because Domino's is a franchise business, and those franchises were very unhappy with how everything happened. And who would want to be mobbed by people asking?
It sounds like they didn't really even tell the restaurants this was happening ahead of time. They just said, oh, and by the way, today some people are going to come in for free pizza.
Yeah, Tuesday being, probably, I guess somebody who worked for Domino's said Tuesday was generally the slowest day of the week, one of at least, and that the sudden inundation of requests for free pizzas, followed by, after the 100 free pizzas had been claimed, dozens of phone calls from people very upset that they could not claim their free pizza, essentially made their lives a living hell.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But so even though you can't get pizza anymore, you still get a free $5.50 credit for Vudu every week, which is almost the price of a movie rental. It's odd they wouldn't just bump it up just a tiny bit to cover a whole movie rental, but so you still get that, and you still get extra stuff that varies from week to week. I think this last week, just the other day, they were giving out $15 Uber vouchers.
Yeah, Lyft is the next one. So you can take a free Lyft to Domino's and complain about not getting your pizza.
So several years ago, all of the Cleveland area Papa John's offered 23-cent pizzas. for one day, and you had to get there like at opening if you wanted to get them because they were selling out in hours. It was madness.
Yeah, Papa John's does that free pizza thing. They did one for the Super Bowl like 2 years ago or something, I think.
Yeah, but they did that a lot smarter because they sent out codes. They randomly selected people and sent out codes to them so that they were able to meter it out at a manageable rate. But
instead of pretending like there could be an unlimited supply of pizza in any given one.
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I actually won free pizzas from Papa John's through that like 3 times in the same year. I think they messed up because I don't think that was supposed to happen.
Papa John's.
Papa John's.
Maybe
All right,
T-Mobile should team up with Papa John's for T-Mobile Tuesdays.
Yeah, you know what would be the best PR move is if some other pizza company just swooped in and said, no, that's cool, we'll take care of it, Domino's.
But nobody wants Pizza Hut, so...
All right, well, we have a word from our sponsor that we should share, David.
Several, in fact.
Several words. Some birthday words from Linode.
Have you ever wondered who hosts AndroidPolice.com? No? Well, I'm about to tell you anyways because of this week's podcast sponsor, Linode. And Android Police has been hosted on Linode for over 5 years now, and we've been very happy with them. And that really is a big part of why they're this week's podcast sponsor, because we can recommend them wholeheartedly. For being a listener of the Android Police podcast, you can get a $20 Linode service credit if you go to linode.com/AndroidPolice. That is L-I-N as in no, O-D as in dog, E.com/AndroidPolice. And that $20 credit isn't a credit you can't use. That gets you 2 months of service on Linode's base tier, which costs $10 a month. Everything's billed hourly, but if you price it out per month, it's $10 per month for that basic tier. And that gets you a gigabyte of RAM, a CPU core, 24 gigs of SSD storage, 2 terabytes of transfer capacity, 40 gigabits per second in connection on the network, and 125 megabits per second out, all for just $10 a month. Linode offers a variety of plans that scale all the way from 1 gigabyte of RAM and 1 CPU core to 96 gigabytes of RAM and 20 CPU cores. So they have something there for everybody, depending on your server needs. Linode has state-of-the-art servers. They've recently switched from Zen to KVM virtualization, which provided Unix benchmark increases of over 300% for virtual server performance. So they are fast. And that native SSD storage, coupled with a 40 gigabit network and processors, which are the new Intel E5 Xeon processors, which are very fast, offer you cutting-edge servers for not really all that high of a price. You get 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week support, even on holidays. There's a 7-day money-back guarantee for any service, and you can get a server running in under a minute. There are add-on services available for backups, node balancers, and Longview. Everything there to really meet your needs for a server. And like I said, if you head to linode.com/AndroidPolice and sign up today, you'll get that $20 credit. You can check out what Linode's all about. I mean, they host Android Police, and we like them. So what have you got to lose?
All right. Thank you to Linode for being our sponsor this week. We had some phones get announced this week, starting off with the OnePlus 3, which became official this week. Snapdragon 820, 6 gigs of RAM, aluminum unibody frame, and no invite needed. So, guys, is this the 2017 flagship killer?
Thankfully, they didn't go with that particular marketing slogan, but I'm sure that's what they would like to think it is.
Is it a flagship that's already been killed by last year's model?
I mean, it doesn't appear to be dead. It appears to still be alive in the way that phones can be alive.
I see.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty close match for all of the rumors that we heard, and it looks like this. There's a hands-on on the site if you want to go and look at it. There will be a review hopefully soon. And it seems like a much better phone than the OnePlus 2 was so far. Although, frankly, that wasn't very hard because that phone was kind of a mess.
I'm surprised they let you have one.
Yeah, I know, me too. So it ships with Oxygen OS again. So this is the third phone that they've shipped with that software, and it's very close to stock Android. There are only a couple of changes. Most of them are okay. They have the alert switch again on the side, the 3-position slider, which I'm actually not a big fan of because it means they have to get rid of like scheduled downtime and Android Wear control of notifications. That's, in my opinion, kind of dumb. It's a 5.5-inch phone still, but it's an AMOLED 1080p this time instead of LCD. I'm still uncertain how I feel about that. It's supposed to be a Samsung panel. I don't know. The calibration seems a little bit weird to me. The camera is okay so far. The fingerprint sensor is really fast. I was surprised because the sensor on the OnePlus 2 was super buggy, but this one is easily as fast as the Nexus 6P. So that's cool. But yeah, so we will have more to say about this, I guess, when when I finish the review, which hopefully will be soon.
So did any of you guys watch the VR announcement?
No, but there was probably a struggle to do so.
No. Oh, we should talk about their weirdo charging thing real quick. So this is the first phone that you can buy in most of the world that has Oppo VOOC fast charging, which is very fast, but it only works with the stock charger because they have power control stuff and heat dispersion actually in the adapter instead of in the phone. So it'll
and
charge
specifically in the cable. That's the important part. Like you need a VOOC cable to do VOOC fast charging.
Yeah. So it it charges normally with like any other Type-C cable and charger, but it'll only fast charge if you use the one that comes with it. And I think OnePlus actually said there will be no third-party accessories that support that. So you'll have to buy like the actual hardware from them if you want extras, which is a bummer. But the OnePlus 2 didn't have fast charging at all, so I would prefer that they had it and it was kind of wonky than to just not have it at all, I guess.
Yeah, and I wonder how fast it can go with other chargers. I would guess probably at least 10 watts.
I am testing this. I had it plugged into a quick charge 3.0 compatible adapter and cable last night, and it was it was like reasonably fast. It wasn't anywhere close to like actual quick charge speed. It was about probably about 2.5 hours for like a full 0 to 100 charge. So it's it was maybe slightly faster than like just a regular.
Yeah, it's probably between 7 and 10 watts. It's because the VOOC thing that can go up to like, if I recall, like 30 watts or something crazy. Like it goes really, 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 really fast.
Yeah.
Because they can help dissipate the heat in the cable somewhat. So, and it's got all this kind of crazy active voltage management stuff with the temperature. It's but it's all because it's a proprietary solution. So, at the same time, if you're a typical smartphone owner, where are you charging your phone? You're either charging it home, in the car, or at work, and probably mostly at home.
So they are going to sell a car charger version of this, so you'll be able to buy that too if you want. And maybe that's all you need. I guess that'll depend on how good the battery life is. I have not reached a conclusion about that.
So I'm curious, if you plug a quick charge charger in there, does it charge at standard charging speed or at quick charge charging speed?
It's standard speed, more or less. It might be I don't know, it might be slightly faster.
Whatever it's going to be able to negotiate.
Yeah, but it's like it's not anything like anything close to what you get with like a quick charge compatible phone.
Yeah, so like a quick charge.
It just doesn't have the hardware to do that.
Yeah, a quick charge 3.0 charger can do like 18 watts on a phone, typically. Quick charge 3.0 actually goes all the way up to 40 or something, I think, technically, but nobody's charging a phone that fast.
So I'm gonna drain it and then I'm gonna plug it into a quick charge again to test that, and I'm gonna try to do a couple rounds on like a Nexus Type-C charger and see how that does. But I assume both of them are going to be not.
Yeah,
really
it might actually go faster on the Nexus charger because VOOC employs high amperage instead of very high voltage.
Amps, I think.
Yeah, I think the VOOCs go up to 5. Yeah.
I think it's. I looked at the adapter before I plugged in the issue. I think it's at either 4 or 5 amps.
Yeah, it's pretty high. So yeah, the Nexus might be better because quick charge is all about ultra high voltage, and they stay down near like 2.5 amps, I think usually.
Yeah.
something like that.
Oh, and the other thing about this phone, it has 6 gigs of RAM, which is kind of bonkers. I think that's the most it's been in any Android phone, right? I think there might have been one other phone with that much that was announced, but I don't.
Yeah, there's some
remember.
Chinese phone. I remember that. Yeah, some no-name phone.
This is the first widely available phone with 6 gigs of RAM. I'm still trying to figure out what's up with the RAM management because it seems like it's not doing the sort of, I guess, magical stuff people hoped it would do with 6 gigs of RAM. It just sort of still closes apps faster than I would have thought and doesn't really ever seem to use more than 4 gigs. Like if you manage to get it up to 4 gigs by opening a bunch of stuff, if you look a few minutes later, it'll probably be back down to 3.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to. I mean, that's something I wish I understood better, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean there could be a myriad of reasons that it's doing this, which may or may not have anything to do with OnePlus. It might just be the way Android operates, and in which case, like the 6 gigs of RAM is just kind of a gimmick, or maybe they're doing something intentionally to save battery life. Who knows? But
As I understand, a lot of the memory management stuff is in the kernel usually, and I guess it depends on how they're managing power and all that kind of business.
Yeah. So I mean, look, it doesn't look like a terrible phone so far. So I like it more than the OnePlus 2 certainly.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to some of the Lenovo devices that were announced this week. Well, I guess last week at this point in time, the Lenovo Fab 2 Tango phone is official. September it will be available for $499. So they did some demos with what you could do with the Tango functionality, and I don't know, seems like it might be a cool phone.
Yeah, it's
just
gigantic,
at least for gimmick
though.
purpose.
It's
Massive.
It is, what was it? It was 6.4 inches, this screen. And they are liars with their renders. They put like gigantic hands in their renders to make this phone look not.
This phone is huge, and it weighs over half a pound.
Yeah, it's a giant metal thing. It's almost the size of a Nexus 7 tablet. Like the 2013 Nexus 7, I bet is a very, very close size to this. It is, it's insane. The dinosaur demo they did on stage, like I am all over that. That looked awesome. That kind of by itself convinced me that maybe Tango was going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this phone's going to go on sale. Probably nobody's going to buy it except for some developers or some very dedicated enthusiasts. We'll see what they do with it.
I mean,
it's a
definitely,
tool.
It looks like something that I want to play with, but I don't know that like you would buy this over another phone, really. Like if you just want a phone to be your thing that you carry around. Like it's huge.
Hey, if you happen to be at Lowe's and you need a phone, I think this might be the only option you have.
Yeah, Lowe's is going to sell it, which is bizarre.
Oh, and their demo was so...
Oh, it was real bad. It was real bad. Yeah, no, okay. Lenovo gave probably the worst keynote I've ever seen.
I don't want to relive it. I was there. The worst part of that keynote, not only was it terribly boring, the seats were monstrously uncomfortable in that theater. Like, I was dying sitting there. Like, I was like, oh my god, I cannot wait for this to be over. Ashton Kutcher, please shut up.
Yeah, they kept bouncing back between, like, they were like, here are some moderately interesting things, and then at one point, I think it was maybe the CEO or whatever, whoever came out, like, okay, well, we told you about that stuff. Now we're gonna do some boring stuff. Like, he actually admitted, like, this stuff is gonna be boring. Here's some infrastructure, whatnot, that you don't care about. Then we'll announce another phone later. So just shut up.
That's terrible to say too, as the head of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. By the way, we got all these hundreds of people that work for us on this other shit, and it's pretty boring or whatever, I guess. But I gotta talk about it and make them happy.
They tell me that it makes a lot of money or whatever, so just sit there and I'll come out with another smartphone that'll lose
It's that
money
boring. Just put
bit.
it in another session and keep it out of the keynote entirely. But whatever. It's Lenovo. So we also got to see there the Moto Z and the Moto mods. Technically, we got to see the Moto Z Droid Edition and the Lenovo Moto Z Force Droid Edition. Actual name of phone.
Yeah, really great name.
Yeah, super good. Rolls off the tongue like sandpaper. But it's the phones themselves, the Droid Z or the Moto Z. I'm going to call it the Droid Z because that's probably what it should have been called, because if it's a Droid phone, then just call it the stupid Droid phone. Anyway, the Moto Z is very, very light and thin. Like, you pick it up and, like, you're kind of, like, weights. It's oddly svelte because it has a 2600 milliamp-hour battery and a 5.5-inch display, so it has that mass is spread across a great surface area. So it's interesting. I actually like the way it looks in person, especially the black one. The black one looks pretty good. I don't know how ergonomic it is necessarily, but it looks nice.
And their whole deal is you're gonna be slapping some mods.
You're gonna be slapping
back.
so many mods on there, mods and style covers. So, we haven't gotten the pricing on the phones. We do know the pricing on the Moto mods, at least at Verizon, and so we're looking at $60 for the style covers, which do absolutely nothing. They just look nice.
And it's the ones they had listed were the designer ones, so.
They could be cheaper for the other ones, maybe $40.
But I mean, whatever. The designer ones, there are stripes. Okay, whatever.
And then the battery one is $20 more, $80 for the battery style cover, and then $90 for the designer battery cover, the Kate Spade one, and then I think $100 for the wireless charging one.
Yeah.
$80 for the speaker.
And that one was actually on Verizon's regular website, so we're pretty confident.
Yeah, and then the projector, the Moto Share projector. I don't remember what it's called.
The
InstaShare. Oh God, $300 for that. Which
give me a break, Motorola. Come on.
And then they didn't announce the camera one, which they hinted at. They hinted it's going to be a thing. It was during the presentation, like, for your photographers or whatever. Stay tuned. And so that's probably going to be obscenely expensive. If that's what the Pico projector one costs, the camera one's going to be ludicrous. And then there's some kind of waterproof ruggedized case that they didn't announce that has a macro lens on it, which could actually be fine for certain people who want that in a case. I don't know why somebody who wants a case wants a macro lens. I guess for your active outdoor lifestyle. But that'll be interesting to see. But basically the Moto mods are a pretty shameless money grab.
Yeah,
that's all they're really about.
Especially if these prices are in any way accurate. I can't. Okay, so they want $300 for a Pico projector that attaches to your phone, which then means you cannot use your phone properly while you're using the projector, which is stupid. And for a similar amount of money, you can get a separate projector.
So question. You're this business person, you're very fast-paced lifestyle, so fast that you can't actually carry a briefcase and put a regular Pico projector in it, but you have to have this Pico projector in your pocket. So, fast-paced business person. By the way,
your pockets are huge because this is a giant attachment.
It's actually not as big as you'd think, but it's pretty big and it's pretty heavy, of course, because it's got a battery in it and it's got, a huge light bulb, but you use this for ostensibly presentations of business things. How do you advance your slides? Do you just have a Bluetooth slide advancer? Do those work with Android?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's what you do, maybe.
There's got to be some app that does.
I bet that's a thing that apps that are intended for presentations do.
Okay, so they support Bluetooth slide button thingies. Okay. Yeah.
I think you have to carry that around too, at which point...
But if you want to watch a movie, you have to press the play button on the screen and then put the projector down.
Yeah.
So the video starts before you actually have the projector set up.
Okay, so they have... I don't know if we put this video in any place, but they had that bizarre and stupid ad where they were people being chased by zombies, and the girl has the projector attached to her phone, and she's like, oh, look, I'll just put this cat video up to distract the zombies. This is the situation that you've chosen to use to illustrate the usefulness of this device. You couldn't come up with something realistic, really? Something that people have trouble understanding the need for. You're like, let's just do zombies.
Yeah, it was. I actually kind of laughed at it. Maybe that's because it was kind of being served McDonald's while you're at Guantanamo Bay. But it was, yeah. And there was no good use case for that. The power pack does make the phone rather, shall we say, turtle-like. Especially for a 2200 milliamp-hour battery, it is, Zero Lemon would look at that thing and go, huh. And because it's pretty large, I mean, you could deal with it, but it's pretty big for what it offers. But it does up the phone battery to 4800 milliamp hours total, which will obviously get almost anybody through 2 days, if not 3. So there's function there, but it does come at a cost, obviously, of around $80 MSRP.
Yeah. Okay. So the Verizon versions. Well, I guess the Force is only going to be on Verizon, right? There's not going to be an unlocked version of that. Is that the deal?
There is going to be an unlocked version of the Force. The Force will not be sold internationally for the time being, because remember, with the Turbo 2, they renamed it to the Max 2 when they sold it abroad for some weird reason. Or no, named it the... Was it just the Droid Force? I forget what they named it. Moto Force. There you go.
Yeah.
It was the Moto X Force. And so I think what they were saying was, yeah, we might sell it somewhere else, but it's not going to be called the Moto Z Force. It'll be called something else. It might be called Moto Max 3 or something.
Okay,
I think it was less that there's no demand for that phone outside America.
So the Verizon versions are coming out over the summer, and they will be exclusive to Verizon until sometime in the fall when the unlocked ones will come out, which is really awesome.
So I was there, and somebody asked ever so innocently. They had a Q&A session for the press with 4 Moto people and 1 Verizon person, because the Verizon person had to be there. And they asked, so what's the deal with the Verizon stuff? And the guy took the microphone, and without missing a beat, you could tell he was prepared. He was coached on this one. We believe the Moto Z provides currently the best experience on the Verizon network. Boom. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Were there eye rolls plenty?
I don't think anybody even bothered to care. It was just like, nobody believed him. Nobody could believe him. It was a very, very strange moment. So in other words, Verizon probably paid them, several wheelbarrows full of compensation for this opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, we should probably mention there's no 3.5mm headphone jack on this phone.
There isn't, and so I should have asked this question during the Q&A of whether or not what we're dealing with here is a USB-C DAC that sits on the adapter port, which would be would be a terrible implementation, or if the phone supports USB alternate modes and it's routing analog audio over the USB pins. Which is something USB alternate mode supports. I looked that up. It's a thing.
Let us hope that's what it is.
So you would not have the issue of, well, you've got to have an external audio decoding device and amplifier.
Because they
you would
said
just have people that would have a USB-C plug on the end.
They said they'll include an adapter that goes from Type-C to a 3.5mm jack. So if it were the former, the bad option, then that thing would have to have processing hardware in it, which seems unlikely.
Yeah, I think that's unlikely. It would make more sense to do it that way. The other reason that would be, it wouldn't necessarily be bulky. It would be bulkier. The thing with alternate mode, at least, is you can have the plug itself is going to be bulkier than the 3.5mm jack, but it should be the same thickness as any old stereo cable once it's past the adapter. So it won't be like you're using a USB cord attached to your headphones, which would be awful. So we'll see how that's implemented. I would guess it's the USB alternate mode thing, which is a little easier to stomach. Obviously, it does make earbuds a little more annoying than, say, modular cable headphones, because you have to have that adapter that sits in there, and that's just another failure point, basically. Along the headphones where a jack can get bent or something. So we'll see what it looks like, I guess.
So
I didn't see any pictures.
When you were using it, did you notice the buttons on the side? They're all on the same side, and it reminds me a lot of the M9. How they had 3 very similarly sized and shaped buttons right in a row.
Spaced, equidistant? Yes.
Yeah. So it's like that same ridiculous.
It's like that. The power button's textured, but not in a useful way.
Is it the bottom one, the power button?
Yeah, the power button's the bottom one. And it's like, everything. You could ask them anything about the design decision on that phone. The answer is either going to be thinness or modularity. You would never get a substantive answer about why we chose to do it this way. It always comes down to because it had to be thin. It had to be modular.
Sure,
So yeah, that button arrangement sucks. The flip side is you have the fingerprint scanner, which turns on the phone when you tap it, and you also have Moto's active display. Is that what they call it? so when you pick up the phone, it knows that you have
they
it.
just call it Moto Display.
Moto Display,
Moto
okay.
Actions now.
Yeah, so you still have those things. So the power button is at least, I guess, potentially less annoying. The volume rockers are still really annoying, though. Yeah, but it's so few phone manufacturers are doing those things really right, it feels like, that it's hard to individually point out Motorola as like being the worst of them. At least in my opinion. I think Samsung does the volume keys all right, although, was Cody saying that you accidentally hit the power button when you want to hit the volume keys?
Oh, yeah, because they're right across from each other.
No, it was Matt. So, yeah.
That wasn't me.
Okay. But
No,
I like the
I
way
have
they do
seen that
buttons.
too.
So, yeah. Anyway, that's the Moto Z. It's going to come out on Verizon, and it's going to be on Verizon only for a little while because screw you. And then it'll be out for everybody.
That is to say, it will be on Verizon only for a little while.
Yeah.
Not that it will only be on Verizon for a little while.
I forget, did we ever get confirmation that the unlocked versions would only be GSM? That was the rumor.
Yes, so I think that was confirmed. Yeah, they are GSM only.
Which feels to me like Verizon asked them nicely to do that.
Or not very nicely, one of the two.
Because the last two Motorola, the Moto X phones, they were compatible with.
This is definitely a consumer friendliness regression for Motorola. I feel no qualms about that. It is very much, there's some less consumer friendly things going on with both of these phones.
All right, so many of you would have noticed that the Moto Z is the new branding for this year, which left a lot of people thinking that Moto X was a thing of the past. Apparently, it's not. Apparently, Moto is or Lenovo is planning on releasing those as separate phones, I guess.
It's a bad idea.
I don't know if that's what they're planning on so much as they're not letting that door shut just yet.
It sounded more to me.
I bet Lenovo is like, we should really just make some more phones because that's what we do. We just make a lot of phones. Why don't we just call them Moto X?
It seems to me like this answer was more of a, well, we're selling Moto X's right now, and we don't want people to think that those aren't good anymore.
Yeah, there's always that element to it. I mean, the fact that they answered it all, I don't know. It could just be that they don't have their ducks in a row on this yet. I would be unsurprised if there wasn't a new Moto X this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a new one, especially if the Moto Z doesn't go very well in terms of the initial launch. So I would also say that Lenovo, they're so big that I think that they do believe in this vision of a product for every price point, which is how they do their laptops. So it would maybe make sense that they would do the same for phones, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. This kind of just looks like they might even be throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks. Why not make another phone? See if it's successful, if it works. If it does, keep it. If the other one starts failing, drop it, and vice versa.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a Samsung tactic.
It does. I agree with that. And, we'll see what happens. Lenovo's had a hard time of it making their own mobile business profitable, so it could be that, I don't know what'll happen. I don't feel like we got a good answer here. I feel like we got the answer that Moto X is not necessarily dead. That's the answer we got.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, it's sort of just wait. We don't actually have an answer for you yet. In 2 years, we'll know the answer to this. And by then, we won't care.
All right, so product reviews time. And Ryan, I think we could probably make this one pretty quick. Xperia X review. You are not a fan.
I'm not. I think nobody should purchase this phone because it is very expensive for what it is. It's a 5-inch phone, so there aren't a ton of 5-inch phones anymore, so you might be tempted to buy it. But for $550, it is a very bad purchase. it has a Snapdragon 650 inside. This is the first 650 phone I've used. I mean, it wasn't like slow, but it wasn't as responsive as phones I've used that have like higher end like 820s or even 810s. The camera is terrible, regrettably horrible. I don't understand how Sony, which makes the sensors for so many phones that have great cameras, is so bad at the software processing that it spits out such horrible images.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm going to guess it's just the fact that Sony's camera team and Sony's phone team do not get together ever.
Yeah, man, it's it's like the low light is really bad, which is a thing that happens to a lot of phones. Like you almost expect it if a camera has issues, like it's going to be bad in low light. But even in better light, it has this tendency to soften things so much that you lose detail. It's like it's even more obvious when the lighting is really good how much detail you're losing compared to another device. So it's not really reliable. I would not take it someplace if I knew I was gonna take a lot of photos. So I mean, just on the basis of that, for the price point, I think is just ridiculous. And they took out the fingerprint sensor.
Apparently that's a patent thing, I guess.
I have heard. I have not been able to get them to confirm this. I have heard that the hardware is identical to what they sell internationally, but they disable in firmware the fingerprint sensor, which would be really especially annoying. But the thing is, like, whatever, Sony, so you need to figure out your patent thing, figure it out. All these other companies are releasing phones with fingerprint sensors in the US. Like, figure it out.
I'm going to guess it's a supplier thing where it's like, this is a cheaper sensor, and it's the one we've chosen for all of our phones that we can sell everywhere except America with this feature.
I mean, and that is a great way to not sell phones.
It is, yeah.
Because you can buy a phone that's like $200 or $250 now, and it has a fingerprint sensor, and this phone doesn't for $550, which is just plain ridiculous. I do like several things about the phone. The screen is actually pretty good. I mean, it's a 1080p LCD, and it gets really super bright. It's one of the more usable outdoor phones I have seen. It's basically as usable as a Galaxy S7 outside, so that's rad. The software is not horrible. Like after you disable the really stupid things they've added, like where it recommends apps for you to download, like Clean Master, turn that off, and it's much better. And I mean, it runs Marshmallow, so you got all that stuff. But Sony's updates are kind of hit and miss, so who knows? Yeah, so nope, just don't buy this phone. I'm gonna get the X Performance soon, so I will see if that one improves any of this. I'm sure it's. I'm pretty pessimistic.
That one costs $700,
yeah,
right?
I am pessimistic that this is going to be a good phone, but we'll give it a shot. And
I believe it has the same camera, doesn't it?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, well, okay. It was Sony seems to be in, listen, we're going to make the phones same amount of money with worse components because that's the only way we can stay profitable until our, whole mobile business shrivels up like a grape in the sun because it's just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
just watching them die.
It's
kind of sad.
They're releasing phones that nobody buys, and like, sure, they're like saying if they want to say, look, they're priced this way so that they're profitable, but like you're not profitable if nobody's buying them, and I don't think anybody's buying them.
Well, they were profitable last quarter because the average selling price of their phones is so high because they sell these phones with middling components at these extremely inflated prices, and that'll work. But the problem is they're still losing market share. They're still selling less phones every quarter. They're just selling enough that they break more than even. And that's why this phone exists. Because they can stick crappier parts in it, still sell it at a very high MSRP, enough that the lowered bill of materials cost keeps them profitable even though they're moving less phones. It's a very pessimistic business strategy, really.
Yes, it's not one that's going to work out for them long term.
Yeah, I doubt it as well. I don't think James Bond will be using an Xperia X.
Never underestimate what marketing dollars can accomplish.
I think we might want to skip the home screen this week. We are running quite long already.
We are running quite
we
long.
only have the one, so we can defer to next week.
We can do that. Anyways, yeah, that's going to do it for the show this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you have a home screen or a question or an antique or a comment, you can send them to us at podcast@androidpolice.com. You can also call us with your questions at 530-HELLO-AP or 530-435-5627. You can also find us on Twitter at Android Police and on Google Plus and Facebook.
And thank you once again to Linode for sponsoring the Android Police podcast. You can check them out at linode.com/AndroidPolice to get a free $20 Linode service credit. Okay, and that's the broadcast.